name is Eric Johansson. I'm the CEO of Carlyle. Today we have Sean Kozlik, our Square9 guru, who's going to be walking everyone through a live demo of the accounts payable automation process available through Square9. You know, at Carlyle, we work with over 1,000 companies for their printing equipment and supplies, and the copiers that we manage scan millions of pages a month into a digitized format. And one of the values that Carlyle can provide our customers is helping them dig into what they are digitizing and creating processes to help automate and streamline how these documents are captured, stored, and then retrieved later when you need it. We feel that the pandemic has really showed us that there's a lot of silos of information. You know, HR documents are held by one or two people in an organization, and they spend a chunk of their time just distributing those documents to managers that may need an employee file. You know, Square9 allows you to digitize that content and then restrict access to all those in the office that need it instead of bottlenecking the information flow to just one person. You know, we also commonly see that sorting and retrieving the data after it's been stored is cumbersome with a basic file structure on a network drive. Now, let's say we want to pull all contract end dates for all contracts signed in a specific period, or all contracts that were version 10.1. It was a very manual process. With keep-free indexing that you will see demoed today, you can make the information more accessible by highlighting the important features of the document to be referenced later. For the accounts payable side of what Square9 offers, which is going to be the focus of today, we really value the scalability and ease of use of the solution. If customers want a central place to store and then retrieve the files that are available, we can do that. But we can also incorporate workflows where the documents are routed to approving parties, set the system to automatically zonal scan prefixed invoices, and be automatically entered into the system. It can really be built out to the unique needs of your organization. With that, I'll hand you over to our Square9 guru, Sean Kozlik, who is going to walk through the different options available to everyone in AP automation, and then at the end, open up for questions. Everyone should see a chat box on their screen. Please feel free to ask questions throughout the presentation, and we can address those at the end. We're also happy to do one-on-one demonstrations with those interested so we can really get a better understanding of your unique AP process and how we may be able to help. We're also recording this event so we can send that out afterwards as well to anyone that wants to review it in a little more detail or maybe share with some of the other members of your team. With that, I think we'll pass things over to Sean to get things started.
Perfect. Thank you, Eric. I appreciate it. And welcome to the webinar that Carlyle has put together for us. And hopefully after today's webinar, you guys will see some needs, right? Most of you guys have probably thought of one time or another, you know, maybe we do need to digitize our documents, right? Maybe transform our businesses, especially with 2020, right? 2020 has been a unique challenge to many of us. One thing that I have seen working the last 6 to 8 months during this COVID pandemic aspect is a lot of businesses always did business the way they've done business because it's how they've always done it. And with the need to have that remote worker or that need to really be able to have that flexibility, but more so digitizing the processes and their documents is a bigger need. And they're seeing that, and they're now starting to realize, you know, I really need to do something with that. So again, as Eric mentioned, you know, we're going to show you a 20,000-foot view, all right? Some of the product sets and some of the demonstration. I'm going to show you a demonstration, but we'll talk a little around how we can help you guys, right? Now, I know that there's going to be many participants here. I may have one talk track, or I may tell one story, right? How they're able to help a customer in one particular vertical. So I'm going to ask you guys to kind of use your imaginations a little bit, right? And think about when I go through the processes or I go through the features and functionality that we can help you with, try to visualize how that can be incorporated to your needs. And as I mentioned, right? Our whole goal here after today is to get you introduced to what some of the capabilities that Carlyle can do for you guys, to have that more one-on-one conversation. So what I want to do real quick is just kind of go through the agenda. So over the 30 to 40 minutes, here we're going to kind of go through the introduction, who I am, Square9, kind of go through the website a little bit, right? What does Square9 have to offer, right? What does Carlyle have to offer to you, right? Who partner with Carlyle? How can Square9 assist with those business needs? Again, how can Carlyle and Square9 assist with those, right? Talk about real-world situations. And then I'm going to kind of go through the live demonstration of some of that product sets and features and functionality that we've talked about. Okay. So introduction. My name is Sean Kozlik, as Eric mentioned. I've been with the company for about 7 years. Product's been around since, or the company, I should say, has been around since about 2006. But I've been in this industry in the solutions aspect. It's really helping businesses streamline their processes probably for 15 years. I've seen it even more so here in the last year, specifically because, the unique situation that we're in this pandemic, where people, again, as I mentioned, they've always done things the same way because that's just how they've done it, right? Some of you guys may be shaking your head. Oh yeah, we've never really thought about that. So I'm hoping again today at the end of this, you guys will see, maybe some options that are there for you that you can maybe institute, right? That can help your guys' day-to-day work, but also provide that, that the big term, that balance, that work life, that personal life balance, right? To potentially see some of that capabilities as well. Okay. So as Eric mentioned, by all means, there is a chat down below. Many of you guys are going to want to ask questions. You may be a little timid to ask those questions. Go ahead and just chat, Eric directly or myself directly will be able to assist. But I will open this up to where people can ask questions at the end of this. So again, the next 30, 40 minutes, right, we're going to go through this and hopefully you guys get some things out of this. So with that said, let's kind of kick into it, right? So I always like to show the website first and foremost, because I think it's important that people understand that after they have a webinar, or after they've listened to myself or anybody really, if they want to be able to access some of that information on their own, right? Maybe you have someone that couldn't make today's webinar, but you saw something, you heard something that, we should probably look into this a little bit more. I want to provide you that capability to be able to access some of the videos or webinars on the website. Now, I like to show you how to get there first and foremost, right? So you're not hunting and pecking around the website to find that information. But more importantly, get with your Carlyle rep. Let's get that one-on-one. Let's really focus in on how it can help you in your internal businesses, right? So again, today I'm going to show you a 20,000 foot view, or talk, I should say, about that 20,000 foot view. So I may not be able to hone in specifically for your needs, and that's where I say, listen, I need to use your imagination just a little bit. So our website's www.square-9.com. Now, corporate headquarters for us is out of New Haven, Connecticut. So even though you're hearing me today, and I'm that main point of contact for Carlyle, right? I'm that subject matter expert for Carlyle and their team. I do have a team completely behind me of engineers, of support, of professional services that really helps me in the need that I need to help Carlyle. Again, we're based out of New Haven, Connecticut. That's where our support is set up, right? That's where our professional services is set up. Now, if you go to this website, www.square-9.com, you'll see a lot of information on this webpage, right? The biggest and the most important place I always show people that I think you're going to get the most benefit out of is if you go to the resources tab. Now, underneath this resources tab, there's a couple of different areas I always like to share with people, right? People always ask me, well, do you work in this particular vertical, right? Now, today, we may be focusing on the AP, AR aspect of what we have to work with. But we also work in human resources. We work in contracts, right? We're a document management system. We're not an accounts payable AR specific system, although that is where we started. That is also the department that we typically see in the most paper intensive, business process intensive portions of organizations. But some people may say, hey, have you ever worked in the manufacturing vertical? Have you ever worked in the education vertical? Have you worked in, nonprofits, financials? So no matter who you are on this call, right, we've probably worked in your industry, and we've probably worked within the process that you're trying to accomplish, right? So I always like to tell people, hey, go to resources, go to our success stories, and select and read about how we were able to help one of those companies, right? Again, I think by educating yourself and being able to be self-educated, right, makes you more powerful, right? Knowledge is the key to everything, okay? But also what's nice about under resources is we also have what's called webinars or product videos. Again, what I'm going to show you guys today is a very 20,000 foot view of all of our product sets of how we can assist you. But you may want to hone in on one specific item, right? Eric mentioned that key-free indexing, right? Which I'm going to show you a little bit later on. If you wanted to show that key-free indexing to another person, what you would simply do is just go to product videos. And with product videos, they're roughly 7 minutes, 5 minutes, a little bit shorter than those webinars, but they really hone in on one specific item. What you could do for that key-free indexing is you could say, hey, I want to see that OCR assisted data entry, right? This comes core with our software. Some people are like, holy cow, that's magic. It's not magic, right? It's software, okay? But by going to the OCR assisted data entry, you can hone in on what that key free indexing is, okay? Maybe streamlining an accounts payables process, right? So these videos are very short videos that hone in on that specific item. Webinars, they're a little bit longer. They're a little bit they're 30 minutes, they're 40 minutes, and they may walk into more detail into those specific items, okay? Well, what's also nice too is we also have our support page. This is one thing when we built our organization and we built our product set, there were two major focuses that we did as an organization. Focus number one was we wanted software that when someone deploys this software, we want it to be easy on the eyes and we want it to not be complicated. Because you guys can probably imagine, you guys have probably experienced it in your life, that something that you were supposed to work in was so overwhelming and so complicated that you just stopped working in it, right? It might have worked, but it was just too confusing. We tried to lay out our software when you look at that and the capabilities to be very user-friendly, right? It doesn't matter how great someone's software is, if someone can't take that on and run with it, right? Another thing that we've done, the second item is really around our support, right? And the reason I say that is a lot of organizations, you guys probably, again, have come across this in the past, is you call in a support ticket and they'll say, hey, we'll call you back in 4 to 6 hours. Or, hey, we've got a 24-hour turnaround time, right? You guys are probably shaking your heads because it's probably happened, right? It's happened to me. I have to call Verizon Wireless up and they'll say, hey, what we'll need to do is we'll call you back in 6 hours, right? What we do is we actually put where you're going to be in the queue, right? So this is going to be, I call it a crapshoot, right? Because I don't know what this is going to be right now when I show my support module. But when I select support, for instance, and again, what's nice about Carlyle is they're going through the technical certification. They've got the technical trained people to assist you. But sometimes, right, Carlyle, they may say, I need Square Nine's expertise on something. Right now, this is a little high, right? I'm a little embarrassed by this right now. But at the same time, this is a live dashboard. There's currently 24 cases in the queue, and the average wait time is about 65 minutes, okay? We typically average about 13 to 15 minutes of response, right? Again, that seems high, but most organizations, most software companies, what they do is they'll sit there and give you a time frame of up to 4 hours or 4 to 8 hours, okay? But I always like to show that because I think that really sets us aside from other organizations because we are not shying away how our support staff is. So we have a dedicated support staff, we have a dedicated professional services staff, but we also have a dedicated development staff. So the software that you're going to see today and what we're going to show you, I want you to understand too, we come out with 2 major product enhancements every year. And the reason we do that is we don't want software that was good at one time and then it's outdated. We want to make sure the software is relevant and it's up to date with today's technology. So we have that dedicated technology or that development staff as well. Okay. Now, what you could also do is you can see here within some industries, right, where we've been able to help out, right? Products, right? We're going to go through what are these 4 items here. A lot of times people ask me, integrate, right? Can you integrate with other software? We'll talk a little bit about that later on in the demonstration. But the answer is yes, right? We do have some direct plugins, but we do have that capability of integrating with that third-party application. Now, what does that mean? That's where we have to have that finer, detailed conversation with you. Okay. So again, let's now talk about the fun stuff, right? What is it that we're here? What are we here to see, right? Sean, let's just get moved on here, okay? Now, I always like to kind of go to the home web page because it kind of shows a little bit easier of the different 4 major product sets that we have, right? And you'll see these 4 icons right here, okay? Now, you're going to hear me talk about certain terminology, right? So like document capture automation. Right? To me, that's a fancy marketing term. Our product is called GlobalCapture. Right? And what is GlobalCapture? GlobalCapture is where we need to capture information, right? So if you think about a process you guys have internally, for instance, right? Let's say you get an invoice, right? We're kind of talking a little bit about accounting right now. Let's say you get an invoice. I'm going to assume a lot of you guys right now, you get an invoice that sits in front of, someone's desk, and they go ahead and they do manual entry into Sage or into a Peachtree or into a QuickBooks or into Dynamic, right? They're doing that data entry aspect, right? Well, GlobalCapture has the capability, and I'll show you here a little bit later on, where we can actually OCR documents, right? Optical character recognition, right? We can create templates, we can create logic to be able to look at certain information on that particular document, pull that data, and now I can provide that data file for you to use. Maybe we push it to that third-party app, right? We've got that capability. So again, document capture automation, GlobalCapture, right? You may have, SharePoint, for instance. You may have a network directory drive, right? That you need to, you want to scan stuff into. So what are you doing right now, right? You're scanning documents in, maybe to your email, maybe to a network folder somewhere, or then you go back to that PC or that computer, right? You right click on that file, you rename that file. You may have to drag and drop that document into a network folder somewhere, right? Now I know myself, I tend to drag and drop documents every once in a while in the wrong folder. Or I may label something, let's say it's an HR document, and I may label that document Kozlik, Sean. But Eric, when he scans that and labels that document, he may label it Sean Kozlik, right? What GlobalCapture allows us to do, it allows us to standardize things. So everybody is doing it the same way, but it assists. It reduces some of that data entry aspect. Right? So with GlobalCapture, we can feed a network folder drive. We can feed that SharePoint. We can create those folders automatically, which again, I'll demonstrate here a little bit later on. But what we like to say is, why not capture that information, capture that document, and put it in our document management system? Right? Now, one of the questions I always ask people when I'm in front of them in person is, are you doing document management today? And more times than not, people don't raise their hand. And I look at them and I go, actually, you know what? Every single one of you guys are doing document management today. The question really is, how are you doing it? Right? Do I have file cabinets? Right? That's a form of document management, right? You're physically filing those documents away. Do I have a network folder drive like what we just explained, where I scan that information, I right click, change the file, change the folder names, right? And store it there. Again, that's another way of document management. But we say, let's standardize this. Let's have one format, right? And that's called global search. So we've got GlobalCapture, right? We capture the data, we capture the documents, and we have to do something with that. Well, let's put it in a repository, right? Now, with document management and what's happened in the last 8 to 10 years, right? We're seeing a lot of organizations that used to have things on their file cabinets, and they're now realizing that their employees are working from home, right? They're having trouble RDPing in because their internet is going up and down. They can't access that network drive, for instance, right? Or they can't access that document because they're working at home. So what do? They have to call someone that may be working in that office. Now, I know here in the United States, we're starting to shut down to where we've kind of canceled Christmas here, right? We're not even allowed to gather. They're telling people you've got to work from home if you can. By having one repository that's standardized, right? Employees now will have the access to be able to grab those documents. And again, not earth-shattering, right? It's just another way of storing those documents to manage that information, right? Maybe I'm an executive and I need to pull up a particular invoice because it was for $75,000, right? And it was flagged and put on my desk. Instead of calling someone up and say, hey Bob or hey Jane, can you pull that document up for me? And then Bob and Jane have to sit down. They have to find that, whether it's on the network folder drive or whether it's in a file cabinet where they walk up to the file cabinet, they pull it out of the file cabinet, and they walk it over to the to the executive. They have to scan it, right? Because the executive's working from home or working remote. Maybe they're traveling. With the enterprise content management solution, that executive will now have the capability to be able to search on their own, right? And I'll show you a couple of different ways that we can do searching. Some organizations are saying, hey, Sean, this is great, right? I've got the repository, I see all that, but I'm just trying to automate my business processes, right? And that's where business process management we call global action, right? We got to take an action on that information, right? Well, what's global action? It's taking that information, it's taking that document, it's moving along in a process electronically, right? Let's take that invoice for an example, right? If you guys are a very paper-based organization, what's probably happening, you're probably getting that invoice. Someone's probably got it in front of them. They're sitting there, they're clickety-clacking it on their keyboard, right? To do data entry, right? And then they're probably handing that document and put it on someone's desk, or they're maybe emailing it and say, hey, you know, manager or whomever, can you go ahead and approve this? Right? There may be certain logic. Anything that's under, you know, $250, it doesn't need to be approved. We're just going to go ahead and pay it. Maybe it's over $250, it needs to go to the manager. But if it's over $1,000, it's got to go to the CFO, right? So you have to make that logic up. But what you're doing is you're manually moving that document from person to person. And sometimes what happens is if you say, hey, Eric, I put that document on your desk. I still haven't gotten that approval. I got to pay this invoice. And Eric may say, I don't know what you're talking about, right? Documents get lost. Sometimes you're trying to find out if you have a project, for instance. We have some organizations that use their project management. They use this as their project management tool, right? Where's that project at in the process, right? Or if you look at the hardware, if you look at, you know, your internal system, right? Look at expense reports, right? Look at HR onboarding. You bring on a new employee, you fill out information. You take that piece of paper, they then give it to the manager. The manager then does a check mark, right? It says, hey, yep, everything looks good. I've collected all the information I need to do. Let's now hand that over to the HR person. The HR person now then does data entry into ADP or whatever the HR software is, right? And then they store that document. Well, you're doing business process. We want to streamline that. What if by using global forms, I now log into a portal as a new employee, I fill out all my information, I hit submit, it now goes to the manager electronically and it notifies them and says, hey, a document's here for you to approve, right? Can you verify all this HR information, right? Yep, everything looks good. Well, now we've got data, right? Because we've typed it into the global form. Well, now the HR person doesn't have to then do the data entry into the HR system. We've got that capability, okay? So again, we've got GlobalCapture, right? Let's capture the information, right? Let's release it to SharePoint, network folder drive, you know, our document management system. But then let's also do business process management. Let's move that along in a particular process, right? Electronically with audit logs and things like that. But maybe we can use global forms, as I mentioned earlier, to extract that information. If I have a template already, maybe I've got fillable PDFs, fillable Word docs, right? Instead of having your employee or having someone do data entry, to then give it to somebody else, for them to do data entry again, you're doing data entry twice. And there's no need to do that. Okay. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to kind of go into the fun stuff, right? Kind of talk a little bit about how we can do all this, but I want to show you that capability. Again, I got to use your imagination, right? I'm going to show you that 20,000 foot view, right? So I highly suggest get with your Carlyle team member. Let's do a one-on-one where we can look at your process. We can look at what you're trying to accomplish in more detail so I can hone that conversation really around how we can help you. So with that said, let's kind of get it kicked off now. So what you're seeing here is our home interface of our global search product, that repository, okay? Now it is a web client. Now what that means, or what that doesn't mean, is it has to be a hosted solution. Sometimes people think, oh, you've got a web client, right? So that means it has to be a hosted solution. The answer is no. We offer both a hosted solution, right, where we can host it in our own cloud. We can load it on your server, or we can load it in your cloud instance if you have a private cloud yourself. Functionality works the same. Okay, it just depends on where the documents in the actual database reside. Okay. Now, we are based off of a concurrent licensing model. Okay, and what that basically means is we don't care about how many people need to have access to this. Let's say you have 20 people in your organization need to have access to this information. You don't have to buy 20 licenses. You say, Sean, I only see 6 people ever being in the software at the same time. What's nice with our software is you only have to buy 6 licenses, but all 20 of those employees will have their own unique username credentials. So as you're seeing here with the home interface, what you're seeing is you're seeing accounts payable, receivable, contracts, correspondence, human resources. we will work with you on what you want your database to look like, what you're seeing as a demo database, okay? You may say, hey, Sean, I want accounts payable and receivable, but I don't want anything else. That's fine. When we deploy this, we'll provide you the accounts payable and receivable. You may say, hey, Sean, I want this. I want it to look like this, but I don't want, Jane, for instance, to access any of the HR records. But I don't want Johnny to be able to access accounts payable. Because they have unique username credentials, you can restrict who can see what. And that's what's nice about this software. It can be deployed across many aspects within your business. Okay. What's also nice about this is if I hit this gear here real quick, when we talk about users, is I've got the capability, if I wanted to, is I can actually do audit logs, right? A lot of times people will ask me, hey, are you compliant, right? Are you compliant in this way? Are you compliant in that way? But what's nice is because you have a unique username credential and you've got that login information, plus you have your actual, let me see here. It's got froze up on me. Can you guys see my my cursor moving, Eric?
Yeah, I can see your cursor moving.
Okay, yeah, some goofy here on my PC. So what's nice is we have the audit log, right? So again, that tells you to stay compliant, right? Compliancy is a process, right? You want the authentication, you want the actual audit history of who's viewed the document, who's annotated the document, who's printed it, right? Who's emailed it, because you can do all that from our software. Okay. So one thing that is a little bit different about our software versus what some people may think of when they think about an elaborate folder structure, we say let's flatten that folder structure. Let's really utilize index fields versus folders. And the best way to show that and to demonstrate that is I always go into the Human Resources Archive, because when you think of human resources and you think about when you store documents with human resources, you typically think, hey, in that file cabinet or on the network drive, I've got a folder for every single employee. And within that folder, I may have subfolders, and then I have all those particular documents. We say, hey, don't do that. Simplify it. Make it easier for yourself and have maybe a human resources archive. But because I have these index fields or these tags, I've got the capability to be able to search off of specific items. As you can see here, I have a bunch of employee names, a bunch of HR record types within one archive. So what I can do is I can hit the search, right? I can search and say, hey, I'm looking up all of Maggie May's information. I can run my search. And what that search will do is it'll pull up all the documents that are tied to Maggie May. Now, if I wanted to, right, I could fine tune that particular search and fine tune and search off of multiple index fields, right? Because the search capability is so robust, we can do that. That's why we say, let's flatten that folder structure, but utilize index fields. Now, some people may, you know what? I do want to separate that out. So in accounts payable, I may separate packing slips from purchase orders, from vendor invoices, for instance, right? I may want to do that capability. Okay. So again, you've got archives, which is kind of a folder structure, but we say let's flatten that, but really utilize index fields. Okay. That's really what we want to do. What are index fields? They're really for two purposes, right? Number one, for you to find. But remember we talked about GlobalCapture, where we can capture some of that data, we can capture some of that information off that document. Well, we can use that data to populate this information as well, which I'll demonstrate here shortly. Okay. Now I want to open up a specific document here real quick, because I want to show you how hard, or I should say, how easy it is to work in our software, right? You basically have two views. You've got this view here, and then if I open up a particular document, it opens up another tab here, the view of the document. You can't get lost in our software. Right? I've worked with software in the past where you start clicking here, you start clicking there, you're like, where am I in the software? I don't know where I'm at. So you backspace and try to, redo your retrace your steps, right? Well, what's nice about this is I have the capability. I apologize, this is running slow. My PC, my VM, everything else is running real slow. There we go. So what happens is it opens up a new tab. And if I don't want to get out, if I want to get out of this, I simply hit the X, or I can go back and be like, oh, I didn't mean to open up that one. I meant to open up this one. But I want to show you this view here. is when we actually view the actual document, what's nice to we store documents in a native format. So if you do bring a document in Excel, it's stored in Excel or Word. We have some people that store WAV files, right? Video, things like that within our software as well. But what's nice is you get 3 views of that particular document. Right, I've got the thumbnail view, right? That's a multi-page document, right? I can quickly go to the different pages if I need to. I've got the view of the document itself, and then off to the right are those index fields, right? That's that tagging of the information. Now, what you're seeing here, you're seeing a lot of annotations. We also have the capability to annotate documents, okay? We can highlight information. I'm sure you guys have done sticky notes in documents. You guys have highlighted information. You guys have written information on those documents. But if you handwrite information on that document, you're kind of compromising the integrity of the original document. But what we can do is we can do stamps, right? We can do redactions, right? We can do highlights, right? And all it is a layer on top of the document. We never actually compromise the integrity of the original document. But what's nice with the security parameters around those individual users is you can restrict who can do what with those limitations. Now that kind of shows you the look and the feel and kind of how to get around the global search aspect of it. Let's talk about how do we get documents in here, right? Let's get into the fun stuff, right? How easy is it or how complicated is it, right? We don't know. Well, let's see here, right? There's a couple different ways that we can bring documents inside our software, right? I always like to show the manual way, doing it first, right? And then I get into the automatic way, right? So one way is, let's say I've got a document, I've got it in my email, I've got it on my network drive, or I'm going to scan it, or whatever the case may be, right? I have the capability, if I wanted to, I can drag and drop that document straight into an archive, right? I don't have to file, save as, do anything fancy. I just drag and drop it, right? What's it do? It brings up that same view as we showed earlier, right? The thumbnail view of the document, the actual document itself, and off the right to the index fields. Now you'll notice the index fields are blank. So what we have with our software called key-free indexing, right? Eric mentioned that earlier on, and I showed you, that OCR entry. This comes core with our software, but you'll see everything is in yellow here, right? Because I hit this lightning bolt. What I've got the capability of doing is I can lasso information, and I can quickly fill out information. Why is this nice? Is now I don't have to do data entry into a system because I can now point and click and fill out that information to now I could potentially push that to your third-party application. A lot of organizations will use this software just for the point and clicking, because by pointing and clicking, you reduce human error. I can't say you eliminate human error, but you can reduce it, but you also reduce the time it takes to do data entry. So what organizations will do, they'll use this key-free indexing to populate this information. Maybe what they'll want to do is on invoices specifically, a lot of people need to now do data entry of all this line item information. With key-free indexing, what allows me to do is I can now add some information and I can actually fill out this table down below. Okay, and I can quickly fill out all that information. I can apply the general ledger codes if I need to. Now I've got all that data. Now I can export that information. Now I did that a lot quicker, right? Someone may say, well, I'm a pretty good typer, right? I can probably fill out that information quicker than you can point and click. When it comes to line item information, I would challenge them, right, on that. But you've got that capability. That's what's nice, right? This comes core with the software, right? Maybe I need to store that information and I'm good to go. But again, key-free indexing allows me to manually extract that information to then, maybe I need to use it for storage, right? Maybe I need it to push to that third-party application. Okay, so I can drag and drop documents if I need to. Now I want to show you the automatic way of doing things, right? I'm going to go in here to vendor invoices here real quick again. You'll see fermentation, right? But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to demonstrate. I got to use your imagination just a little bit here. I'm going to imagine that you've got a physical document, right? Now I'm going to copy this. And you go up to that Carlyle machine and you hit scan. There's already that predetermined destination. You hit scan and it goes into that network directory, right? That hot folder as we call it. Now I'm going to speed up the workflow just a little bit because this captures every 60 seconds, right? But what I want to do is I'm going to speed up this workflow here. And I'm going to go ahead and hit save. And what this is now going to do is now watch that hot folder. It's now going through the process. We've created a template, right? I want it to extract certain pieces of information off of this document. Okay. Now I should come in here and it should refresh and it should show up here in vendor invoices here. And you'll see a new entry on top of that fermentation invoice that we had. Okay, get back in here. Whoops, sorry about that. I got a little click happy there. There's the brew shop, and there it is. So I open up this document, and what's nice about this is I was able to create a template to automatically extract certain data. Now I had it to pull up just the vendor name and the PO number and the invoice amount, right? Again, that's for demonstration purposes. But what we can do, we can work with you on what is it that you want us to automatically extract. Do you want us to automatically extract line item information as well? We've got that capability. So again, we can very simply just go ahead and scan that document. We create templates by using GlobalCapture to capture the data in the documents to then release the global search, right? Now, that may be all you want it for. I just want it here so I can find it at a later date, right? Some people will say, well, no, I want that global action. Remember that business process automation capabilities? What I want you to do is I want you to be able to throw that document in, OCR it for me. Now set it up in my queue, right? And maybe we have certain queues and I monitor my pending queue. Oh, I've got a document here that needs to be approved. Okay, no problem. Again, what's nice about our global action workflow is you don't have to monitor our software. We can do email notifications. We can also have the capability of not only doing email notifications that, hey, the document that needs to be approved, is maybe we can every day, right? And I'm going to show you a little peek behind the curtain a little bit on a particular design that we have. Whoops. What we can do is we can actually come up in here in global search. I go up into global action here real quick, and I can actually show you, we can set up workflows. We can set up some of that logic, right? Some of that logic is, remember I talked about earlier on, right? Maybe certain dollar thresholds, right? Maybe it's, hey, I want someone to be notified every day to say, hey, a document needs to be approved. It's sitting in your queue. That way you, as an individual, don't have to go to your management or go to that individual and say, hey, have you accomplished this task yet? Right? You allow our software to do that. For instance, here, we bring documents in. Some of the conditions is if it's less than $200, let's just pay it. If it's over $200, just go to the AP, right? Like I mentioned earlier. But what we can do is every 3 days, we can keep hitting that AP manager, for instance, and say, hey, accomplish your task. Because what's nice is I can sit here and it sits in that pending queue. Well, now they can come down here. If you look in the lower right-hand corner of my screen, I may want to say, hey, approve me or no go. Or maybe I'll put a sticky note on this document, right? Maybe I'll highlight certain information, right? Maybe I want to highlight this. Whoops. That click happy again on me. Right? Maybe I want to highlight this information, right? And maybe I want to hit no go. Maybe I want to put a sticky note, right? I've got that capability. And what's nice is that then we'll come back here and go into this queue and that document will automatically be moved from pending to approved or from approved to escalation, right? Depending on what you want to have set up internally. Again, a lot of organizations just want to start very simple. They just want a document that comes in, that's been viewed, and then it's sent to the AP manager, for instance, or the HR manager, for instance. So just do that one simple click. Yep, everything looks good, right? They have that touch point. Okay. Now, I've got the document in here. I've showed you a little bit how we can manually bring documents in, how we can automate that process by creating templates potentially, right? Like I showed you with that brew shop, where we were able to extract some of that information. How do we get this information? How do we find this information? Right? There's a couple of different ways, like I showed you earlier, right? You can just simply use these index fields, right? Accounts payable, for instance, say, hey, I'm looking for everything that's three-way matching. We've got that capability as well. Right? Say, hey, I want all documents that are matched. We've got that capability of looking at that invoice, looking at that purchase order. Hey, do the dollar amounts match? Right? If so, great. If not, flag someone, human intervention, something's not matching up, right? I need to do something with that. So I could do a search. I did that search. You can see I got one purchase order, a couple packing slips, and two sales, and 9 accounts payable. As you can tell, I use the same document for my demonstrations, right? But you can do searches on high levels, okay? Not earth-shattering, right? Some organizations will be like, hey, I got contracts in here, right? Do you have a way to do a keyword search off these documents? And the answer is yeah. I've got that capability. I can come in here, do a keyword search and say, hey, I'm looking for that document that had the word Boston in it, right? Or I've got the HR document. Someone went to Boston University, right? What I can do is I can highlight that keyword, Boston. You can say, oh, here's the employee record I was looking for. So there's 4 with the word Boston in it. Now you'll notice these index fields, they don't have Boston on them, right? They've got the employee name, the HR record type, right? Maybe their employee ID. But you'll notice this little index here is called hits 5. Well, if I open up the document, again, just double click, right? Nothing earth-shattering there. What it will do, it'll actually open up that document. It'll highlight those keywords for me. As you can see right here as it's loading, I've got a little highlight here of Boston, right? Come on, there we go. You can see it highlights the word Boston, just like Control F in a Word doc or a PDF, right? You have to open up the document, you hit Control F to find that. What's nice about our keyword searching or content searching is it's not just within the document. I can actually search multiple archives. Okay, again, not real earth-shattering. But one thing I want to show you here real quick, another way that you can search. A lot of people, when they say, hey, does your software integrate with this third-party application, I always ask, well, what does integration mean to you? And a lot of times they just say, well, if I'm in this software, can I just find the document? Like, can I just be in that software to find that particular document in your software? The answer is yeah. We don't really call that integration. We use image exchange. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to demonstrate, right? We use Salesforce internally, right? But let's say you're in that third-party application, and someone's saying, hey, I need to pull up this PO, right? Instead of minimizing what you're in to maximize our software to do that search, just right here, just hit, I use F9 on my keyboard, right? By using F9 on my keyboard, what we're doing is we're actually OCRing that document, okay? And we're actually going to look into my database. It's automatically going to pull up my database. It's going to automatically pull that document up for me right on the fly. It keeps me from having to minimize what I'm doing, to maximize my software to do the search. We want to be able to implement a solution for you that makes your job easier. We want to streamline that for you, right? Same capabilities can be with email. You may get email requests, right? You may say, hey, yeah, I get requests all the time via email, right, from customers or whatnot. Same thing. I hover over that information. I use F9 on my keyboard. You guys can use whatever hotkey you guys want. That can be set up to you. And this, again, is where I can now look at that information, or I can look at that particular document. I can open up that document if I need to, right? But what's nice is I can email as well, right? I can go ahead, I can open this up, I can do some annotations on here, right? But what's nice is I can actually email this as well. So if I look at these annotations, I can email this document. We'll email it with annotations. We'll call it PO number because that's what was requested, right? And what we'll do is we'll actually attach that document to an email. Okay? We've got a lot of that capability. Here it is. So what I was able to do is able to open that document up, attach that particular PDF, and there's the annotations. Now, those annotations, right, we talked about later on top of the document. When we email out, we will convert to a PDF, and we actually burn those annotations on the document so that recipient wouldn't be able to remove the redaction. So again, I kind of went through GlobalCapture, right? Capturing that information. I went through global search, right? Where to find that information. We've talked a little bit about global action, like that business process management. Let's quickly here, we got about 15 minutes at the top of the hour, so I'll be mindful of everybody's time. I want to show you real quick our Global Forms platform. The one thing we're seeing a lot here recently is we've got a solution called Return to Work. We actually built a solution specifically for return to work, right? Now, I know everything is kind of shut down again, but as things were opening up, people were having to put in processes, right? As you enter into my building, have you or will you sign off on this document to show me and to prove to me that you have not been sick, right? Because what I don't want to happen is you now come back to me and you do get sick or you do get COVID and you try to sue me because I didn't do something proper, right? It's always, cover your tail end. So what we've done is we've actually built a global form that's called like the visitor screen or the return to work. So I always like to do this. I always hit demo the form. What we're seeing organizations do, and I suggest that you guys do this right now, pull out your phone. Okay, I'll wait here for a couple of minutes, but pull out your phone and scan that QR code right now. Because what we see organizations will do is they're all about being touchless. Okay, what they want to do is they want to put this QR code, maybe on the front door. So what people will do is before they enter that door, they'll pull out their own phone, they'll scan that QR code, it will now take them to questions. Okay, and how they answer those questions will deem, do they get the green light or do they get that stop? Well, wait a minute, right? You said you had symptoms, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and just click in here to the visitor screening, right? So again, if you were able to pull out your phone, it probably prompted you some questions you can answer. And this is where you can fill out this information. We'll go, I'm a family member, my name is Sean, right? Again, there's my email, who am I visiting? Eric, right? I go to next, it asks me all those questions. Again, it probably prompted you, to take right here when you did that QR code. And when I fill out this information, again, it's touchless, right? So what I've seen organizations do is they'll get that green light, right? They'll sign off on this, say, I promise you I won't sue you. They hit submit, they'll get that green light. So now that receptionist will scan that QR code. And they'll say, and they may, hey, you know what, I need to take your temperature, right? Because we want to log that information. Let's say we go ahead and we put in that temperature and we update that. So what's nice about this is now I have documentation of everybody that has come into my organization, okay? And I can put that into a wellness folder, for instance. And I can say, hey, all employees go here, all vendors go here, family members go here. We can do access, date, do temp reading. Because let's say someone says, hey, I did test positive. I was in your office yesterday. You have the capability of doing a search to say, hey, I want to find everybody that came into this building on this particular date, after this particular time, or during this particular time period that this individual was there, to do contract trace and say, hey, just want to let you know, we had that someone came into my building, they did test positive, just want to notify you, you may want to get yourself tested, right? You might have been exposed. So what it does is it helps with contract tracing because people come in and out. Maybe it's the vendor filling up the soda machine, right? Maybe it's Carlyle coming in to do service on that hardware, right? Because again, the way this is going is people are needing that documentation to cover themselves, but also to help with the contract tracing. Okay? And we've built a return to work global form specifically for that. Now, in our forms library, these are some of the things that we've done, right? We've done, university add drop classes, right? Expense reports, right? Some HR and some document screening, right? These are just some of the samples that we have to offer that we do demonstrations. But I have done global forms in pretty much everything and anything capacity. We typically see people with purchase orders. We want to generate purchase orders. We allow our software to do that. Or maybe it's expenses, or maybe again, we talked about HR at the very, very beginning, right? Let's take that onboarding, let's convert it to a global form, right? We convert it to a global form, fill out that information, we capture that data, we capture that information, we put it in our repository, and then use our business process manager to keep it electronic. We start. Now we're coming up to 10 minutes to top of the hour. I went a little bit longer than I wanted to, and I apologize for that. But I wanted to make sure I kind of honed in and really showed you and talked about all the capabilities that we have, right? You may be like, well, you really didn't hit on what I really wanted to see or talk about. Get with your Carlyle rep. Get with them. Let's schedule a time where we can maybe sit down and discuss that. right? 30 minutes or 2 hours. I want to open it up for any questions that you guys have. Again, feel free to ask questions. Don't be timid. A lot of people will say, hey, I don't want to ask questions because I'm scared to. I guarantee the question you want to ask, there's probably 3 or 4 other people that are wanting to ask that same question. So I'm going to go ahead and try to unmute everybody here. So you can unmute yourself now if you want to ask us questions, or by all means, you can put something in the chat group. Okay. All right, I got a question here. PCI DSS and SOC 2 compliant. Yes, so PCI, that is something we don't process credit cards through our system, right? But we are compliant. We do have SOC 1, SOC 2 compliances, and I can actually provide that to your Carlyle team member, and they can provide you that compliances aspect. If you go through here, we can do compliance here. Okay. And you can see some of that information. I can actually provide you some of the documentations for SOC 1, SOC 2, and things like that. All right, there's a lot of questions here. We're trying to get to all of them. All right. Let's see. Okay, yeah, so are you hosting your data? Can I store data in Canada? Yes, you can. Right, you can store this in your own private system if you wish. Right, so it's completely up to you on where you want to store that information. We actually partner with Amazon Web Services to actually store the data, the documents. We're a software company. We're not a data center company. Okay. So again, that is something that we do work with the Canadian Amazon Web Services data centers as well. Do we integrate with Microsoft Great Plains? We do. We do integrate with Microsoft Great Plains. One thing I do want to mention to people when we talk about integration, we don't actually populate data within the third-party application. What we do is we present the data in a manner that then can be ingested and imported. And the reason we built our architecture that way is because if there was a change that was done with that third-party application, right, we don't want it to stop the process of what we can accomplish, right? So what we do is we always will massage the data, present the data to then be presented to that third-party application. So if there's a change on the third-party application, we just have to maybe modify a little bit to still accomplish that change within that third-party application. Okay. What's the best way to ingest documents in the ECM? Retention policies included for archival purposes. Again, it really depends on what you want to do, right? We can drag and drop. We can automate that process. Retention policies, right? We can set up workflows, right? So maybe after 7 years, we can set up an automatic workflow that says, hey, monitor this particular date, 7 years after this date, let's move that document out of an active archive to a deletion archive, maybe notify someone that says, hey, we need to delete those documents. Now, can we automatically purge documents from the software? The answer is yes. I would never, ever suggest that because, again, it is software. You still want that safety net, but we can move documents around. Okay. If you have a multi-page invoice, does your app grab the total from the last page? It can. We have the capability with GlobalCapture. We can look at the word total, for instance, right? We've got the unstructured advanced capture capabilities to pull that information off to then populate that particular information. Are you compatible with Microsoft Navision? Yeah, we are. Okay. Another question I had was documents, right? When you capture information, is it unlimited or do you do page count? We have, like I mentioned, we have a hosted solution and we also have an on-prem solution. The on-prem solution, whether it's in your third-party application or your third-party data center or it's on your server, it's unlimited pages. You can scan as many as you want. Now, we're going to want to talk with you to right size that. And what I mean by that is if you think about highways, right? You think of a rural 2-lane highway, right? Doesn't have a lot of traffic, right? So it can warrant a 2-lane highway. But if you have a major metropolitan area, that 2-lane highway probably isn't the best bit downtown, right? You're probably going to get a lot of congestion. So we work with you and we say unlimited, we still want to right size that and still build out the highways to be able to accomplish that traffic. Okay. Now the hosted solution that we have different tiers because we partner with Amazon Web Services and because it takes up resources and we wanted to give back at a lower cost to you guys, right? We did limit the hosted scanning capability. We have different tiers, right? And this is where we'll work with you. So every day it will, maybe it's 1,000 pages, maybe it's 2,500 pages, maybe it's 5,000 pages a day, right? And then the counter kind of resets itself day 2. So in the hosted environment, we do have some restrictions, right? But that's where you'll work with the Carlyle team. You'll work with me on really what's the best fit for you. Okay. I think that is all the questions that I have so far. Are there any other questions? What is your pricing model based on? Usage, users, modules, right? So yeah, so users, right? We're based off of concurrent licensing, right? Usage, not so much, but modules, right? So again, it depends on the features and functionalities. We've got certain modules, right? You may say, hey, I want a simple scan, store, retrieve, Sean. I don't want any of this automation stuff. What I want to do is I just want to basically just be able to drag and drop a document in, use my key-free index in, and find it at a later date. That's all I want to do. Not a lot of robust features functionality. But then you may have someone say, hey, I want some of that automation. We've got another bundle package that includes that capability. Okay. So again, that's where we work with you, because again, we don't want a software that says, hey, you want these capabilities, we got to buy all of it. No, we want to grow with you. We want to start you small, and then we'll grow into it, right? So we can bolt on, we can add on to it, we can expand it, right? One question here that I see is training, education. Do you have to do all the work, or can I take this on myself? The answer is take it on yourself, right? We provide you the knowledge, we provide you the expertise within resources. We have the education program, right? We provide you the keys of the kingdom. We also provide you the knowledge and the expertise to be able to modify this on your own. You may have the features and functionality that works great with accounts payable, but you want to do the same thing within HR. As long as the features and functionality you need for HR haven't changed, you can deploy that and expand that at no cost on your own. Right? You may have to purchase a couple more additional licenses to handle the volume, but you can deploy that on your own. Okay. I know we're coming up here to noon. That's all the questions that I've had here. Again, if questions come up, as you guys look at this, you guys start thinking about this, get with your Carlyle rep. Let's schedule a one-on-one with myself. Let's schedule a one-on-one with someone that can really dive into your specific needs and the details, right? To really hone in on how we can accomplish it for you. Okay.
Great. Well, just want to take a moment to thank you very much, Sean, for a great presentation on what the capabilities of Square 9 are. And to reiterate for everybody, we will we'll reach out to see if you have any further questions and to see if there's any interest in doing more of a one-on-one to kind of do a deeper dive. There is some complexity around processes that individuals have, and this program is so scalable. We can have deeper conversations in regards to what's right for your organization and how this would apply to your specific use cases. But I really enjoyed that webinar, and thank you again, Sean, for hosting that for us.
No problem. Hopefully you guys will get with the Carlyle reps so we can take that one-on-one.
All right. Well, thank you very much, everybody, and I hope everyone has a great rest of their Thursday.